Hi everybody, my name's Hannah Clue-Paternon. I'm owner of HK Hair. I am today going to show you how to do a one length haircut. Now this is out of necessity because we are currently in lockdown. I wouldn't usually endorse you cutting your own hair or anybody else's at home. I'm very passionate that as a hairdresser and for my fellow hairdressers, we've trained a long time to be able to competently cut hair. So this certainly doesn't replace your hairdresser, but if your hair is dry or your child's is too long and something needs to happen with it in order for it to be easier for you to be in lockdown, then this is the way to go. So my model, this is a hair up model, and she does need her ends trimmed, so her hair is particularly long. If she was an actual client of mine, I would be looking at the ends of her hair, if you can just see in the video there, that actually her hair gets quite frilly, for want of a better description, and finer from about here down. So if she was my client, I'd be about here. I'd be saying to her that she needs a good 2 to 3 inches off her ends. I'm literally going to do a light trim on Sophie because I do need her to demonstrate hair up while I'm in lockdown, but the principles are actually the same. So the whole way through, what I'd first of all make sure is your client or your child has got their head straight. So the position they need to be in is their head, shoulders balanced. So if they're sat down, fine. If they're stood up, and my idea with my children is I would get them to stand up, but I would have an iPad for them to watch and distract them, but kind of about 45-degree angle. So they naturally, instead of their head being like this, they naturally put their head as a tilt like that, which is really helpful. And then what I would do is, it would be better if the hair is dry and straight, if their hair is long and straight naturally. If it's curly, do trim it when it's wet, when it's dry, sorry. But just use a wider tooth comb and literally just take the ends off. So I've got Sophie's hair straight. It's useful for me to have a mirror. I've got a mirror in front of me as well, so I can then keep checking, because obviously if they're young or not, some people then tend to cross their legs if they're sat down, and that puts them off at an angle as well. So what I would do is section by section. So I'm going to section half her hair out the way, so from the ears and around. So we start with smaller sections. Let's have a look there. Okay, and I'm just going to pin this out the way. I'm going to do this how I would expect someone to do it at home, and not how a professional as such would do it. So I've got that section, so I'm going to do a couple of inches at a time. There you go. Okay, so I've got a good nice section here. Let's keep that bit out of the way. And then what I'm going to do is I've got a straight comb. I've got my hairdressing scissors, but if you could use your sharpest scissors, you can. These hairdressing scissors range about 5 or 6 inches. So that kind of size, anything like kitchen scissors, if they're really, really sharp and you're just doing a one length cut, then that's fine. But if not, I'd still go with slightly smaller scissors. Not curved nail scissors though, please. So what I'm going to do is, if the hair's very thick, I'm going to use my fingers like this, and I'm going to pull the hair slightly taut so it's a straight line. You see Sophie's got her head slightly forward, and then I'm going to cut just below my fingers. So I'm going to turn around and do this as I get higher up so you can see better. So I'm going to cut that straight across, and I'm just going to double check. And as a hairdresser, I would usually be on a stool at this point to make sure that I'm eye level to the hair. So I'm not moving her hair around before I actually cut it. I'm cutting it at the point where my fingers go to the bottom of the hair, and then I use both my hands either side to pull down and make sure each side is straight and even to the next, which it is. So I'm happy then, that's my guideline. So I'm then going to go my next section, make sure it's straight across here. Okay, and do exactly the same thing. I'm going to pull it all the way down, use my fingers, find that point where I can see that there's the long bits are, because you'll see the section you just pulled down will be longer than the bit underneath. Do not cut your guideline. So this the first section you cut is your guideline. So your guide to the point of where everywhere else gets cut to. Do not make that shorter, because what will happen is the hair will gradually get shorter. I've still got Sophie's hair pulling forward slightly, and that will just ensure you get an even cut at the end, and there's sort of no what we call weight or it being sort of uneven. And then I'm just going to do another section. I'm going to let a bit of the hair down from the top. Let's do 2 sections, a section from the middle so I'm now doing what we call a hot cross bun, which is I've done a middle parting, and then I'm sectioning from ear over. This bit doesn't want to go in. And then just keep those bits out of the way. So I've gone from what we call the occipital bone all the way down. So still you can see there's some frilly edges there. So I'm then going to do the same thing, start in the middle. Let's turn completely around, turn Sophie around this way now. So you can see I'm doing the middle section first. Pulling that right down. Okay. And then meeting the point where I can see that there's hairs that are longer than what I've previously cut. I'm now getting a much even, thicker line at the bottom. And do the other side exactly the same. And then you'll get to a point where there's more hair in the bottom section than what there is. I'm just going to double check her head is straight. Yep. So I've moved her now, but if she was a client, I would make sure that her head was straight in the mirror. And I would then do perhaps 2 more sections. So let's just halve this section. I don't need that. And then this one. Okay. Just get this out of the way so I'm not accidentally cutting these ends. And let's just straighten all of this up again. So it might be useful to, you might find I find better to cut it when the hair's dry, because then you know that it's not going to bounce up. Some people's hair stretches quite a lot when it's wet, so you don't want to cut it too short. But practically, if it's easier, as soon as the children are out the bath and you nip the ends off, then that's the way to do it. I'm doing exactly the same thing, pulling it right way down to the end, taking those ends off. And I'll still, if obviously Sophie hasn't got any shoulders, but if the hair's this long, I would still be pulling it back over past the shoulders. A hairdresser will pull them forward and check that. If you aren't trained and you start to do that, you then might find that it's getting too short at the front. So in these circumstances, I would suggest not doing it and just putting it back across the behind the shoulders. So with my hair, if it was me, I'd be having someone cut my hair entirely across the back of my head, back of my shoulders. Okay, and then last section, exactly the same, pulling it straight back. All the way down, checking that there's not a lot of hair now to cut off because I've caught most of it. I didn't catch my comb. Okay, and then the only thing left I would do, if the person didn't have a defined parting, I would leave it like that. Let's just turn Sophie around. So she has got, as you can see there, a much thicker ends to her hair. And she's all even through the ends. If it was a client that had a parting, or certainly an adult, if they've got a parting, it's lovely Sophie, the only thing I would do is just double check this front section, put their parting in, get them to put their parting in, or you put your own parting in, and then just double check along these sides that one side from the front isn't longer than the other. So let's put Sophie's head straight now. Okay, so let's just double check. And that side is just a little slightly longer, so all I'm going to do is just nip off. There's probably about 4 hairs there that are out. And there's your one length haircut.